Shock indictment tonight. The so-called cruise ship girl, Anna Kepner, a little teen girl found stuffed under the bed on a Carnival cruise ship. Tonight, an indictment goes down as we learn, according to court documents, this teen girl brutally sex assaulted before she is strangled dead. At the same time, the alleged killer, her own stepbrother, is unmasked. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. That little girl stuffed under a cruise ship bed, wrapped in a blanket, mummy style, with life vest stuffed over her. She, quote, fought for her life. Tonight, we learn about an indictment on Anna Kepner's teen stepbrother. He's been protected by his family from the get-go, who seemingly were more interested in protecting him than getting justice for Anna Kepner. Joining me in all-star panel, but straight out to Crime Stories investigative reporter Sydney Silvani. Tell me about the federal charges.
Timothy Hudson, Anna Kepner's 16-year-old stepbrother, is now facing charges of sexual assault and first-degree murder. And this is in federal court, Nancy. So this teenager faces a very lengthy sentence. These are very serious charges.
We also know that for the first time, the stepbrother is unmasked. Let's see the face of the accused killer, her own stepbrother. So far, he has been shielded from public view. All of the court proceedings were held in secret. This is the stepbrother. Straight out to Joseph Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and star of hit podcast Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. Let's have a little refresher course. As we say in court, let's refresh the recollection of the jury. What happened to this teen girl, and what about these new federal charges have you learned?
Well, let me tell you. Let's start with what happened to Anna. Her body is actually found wrapped in a blanket, stuffed beneath a bed in a cruise cabin, Nancy. And not only that, her body is also surrounded by life jackets in this kind of juvenile, infantile, if you will, way to try to hide her body. I don't know who in their right mind thought that they could get away with this, but they did it anyway. You know, in this new indictment, what we're learning is that this young lady was subjected to probably one of the most horrific deaths that anybody can imagine. She has been sexually assaulted, and we're talking about an aggravated sexual assault, which means this is a very violent event. And oh, by the by, he's been charged. Her stepbrother has been charged with first-degree homicide, Nancy. What they're saying is the level of brutality here includes she has got a mark on her neck that appears to be associated with what they're referring to as an arm bar, which means the blade of the arm is being pressed down over the anterior neck. She couldn't breathe. And here's the thing, Nancy, not only that, they're saying that she sustained trauma to her area that is associated with an antemortem or prior to death event. This goes to the aggravated nature of this. So she's been greatly traumatized. She was essentially deprived of oxygen and then wrapped up and tossed under this bed, Nancy.
Joining us, a veteran trial lawyer, defense attorney Greg Morse. He is the author of a legal thriller, Untested. He is the founder of Morse Legal in Palm Beach. Greg, according to the federal government, I don't know what it does to a person when they see the United States of America versus you. But
Well,
according to the federal government, and remember, I was a Fed for 3 years before I became a felony prosecutor of violent crime. They're saying that this teen girl, Anna Kepner, you know, the little girl that was a cheerleader at the little Titusville Christian school, that girl that was so excited about the cruise with her grandparents. She got some new outfits and had her nails done, got all ready to go on the cruise with the grandparents. That little girl, the one that wanted to join the Navy and then go into law enforcement and canine handling, her, they are saying that the last thing she saw about that far away from her face is her own stepbrother breathing into her face as he strangled her dead after a... What's your defense?
Well, one, given the age, you're going to look to incompetency, insanity at first. You also, I don't know the full import of what the feds have. The feds do a great job at investigating their cases. So I'm sure they did a great job in this case, but there's a lot of other people on the
Did you
boat. I
say
don't know if
insanity?
there's
I just want to
DNA
make sure there's
evidence.
nothing wrong with my IFB. Did you say
I did.
insanity?
You're going to look at, sure, this
Oh,
is a
please
young
go
man
on.
who's just started adolescence. So this is a young man who just started adolescence. So you have those issues there.
So?
Young people I've represented plenty,
Well,
and they don't understand the system. They don't understand the
none
nature
of that is
of
insanity.
what's going on.
He's a
No,
teenager,
no, no.
so
I'm talking
he's
about
legally
competence.
insane.
No, no,
You
no,
said
not because he's a
insanity.
teenager.
Incompetence,
You
very
said
different.
what defenses would you look
And
at?
you
I would
said
absolutely look
insanity.
at competency and insanity, both. Yeah,
You said
absolutely. I would
insanity.
take a look to say, I did. I said insanity and competence. They're two different things, but you would look at them both for someone this age and doing this. I don't know if DNA's matched yet to this person, but that's an issue also. There's a lot of people on the boat. So you have to look at those things as a
Excuse
lawyer
me.
and turn every stone over.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Greg Morse, isn't it true that the judge is going to instruct the jury if and when this goes to trial? This is after closing argument. So this is the last thing the jury will hear before they begin deliberations. The judge will instruct them on the law they must follow as they apply the law to the facts of the case. Credibility, the facts, and the law is within the sole province of the jury. And the judge will tell them, the black and white letter of the law is, they can consider facts before, during, and after the incident. Isn't that true?
Sure. That's correct. But you
Okay.
also have the
fact that
issue
her
here with
body
young
was
people
stuffed
and social
under
media.
a bed. Can we
Nancy,
see?
we just
Can we see the cabin? The fact that her body was hidden, stuffed under a bed, nude, wrapped up like a mummy in a blanket, and then concealed by life vests, stuffed under one of those beds. And then, according to reports, the teen stepbrother goes along with the parents. They belly up to the breakfast buffet, up to the trough. She's missing, and he acts perfectly normal. So don't you think hiding a body, Greg, would suggest that he knew it was wrong? I mean, Greg, it goes all the way back to Genesis. You are familiar with the Bible, I assume.
I am.
Because
it's a factor,
in Genesis,
but
Adam and Eve know they've done something wrong, and they try to hide. Spoiler,
listen, you can't
it didn't work.
you can't compartmentalize information. And what we just saw with what was it, a category finding social media companies responsible for mental illness in young people, that's something that is maybe come into play here. It may be an issue investigating this young man's history, and he was living in a delusional world if he did this. So there are those factors that you're going to look at first when you have a 16-year-old defendant who is accused of an unspeakable act of violence. And that's the avenue to go down, because with the feds involved, they're going to have evidence locked tight. They're going to dot their I's and cross their T's. They're very good at what they do. So that seems like an avenue when you have a young person to look into. And that's an important ruling that happened in California with social media companies being responsible for a young person's mental health issues because of the algorithms. So all those factors could come into play in a defense here or resolving the case in a somewhat reasonable way. but what's reasonable when you face life, right? So that's a
Put
tough
Morse
one,
up,
but
please.
it doesn't
Greg
mean
Morse,
you
please
don't
do
have a
not
defense.
mislead the listeners and viewers, because the California case, what do you look around you at the panel? Do any of us look like we just fell off the turnip truck? The
But
case you're
that's
referring
what.
to in California had nothing to do with an intentional homicide, did it?
It didn't, but it had to do
Then it
with
has
the
no bearing on this case. It has
mental
nothing to do with this
illness.
case. It's
Sure.
not remotely
But it
similar.
does on the defendant. Yes, it does. It does on the defendant when we're talking about competence
No.
and insanity. What's affecting that young person's brain? What world are they living in when they did this? Do they believe what they're doing is in their reality because they've been so brainwashed by the algorithm and going down this rabbit hole of social media? You know, I think before that verdict came back, most people would say there's no way social media is going to be responsible for someone looking on apps and looking at things. But you know what? A jury found they were, that their product is
In a completely different type of case. It had nothing
but
to
it
do with
doesn't
a
mean you can't
homicide,
use
much
those
less.
factors.
Okay, you're going to just have to cut his mic. I don't know what else to do with him. That was not a murder case. It was not a rape case. It was a civil case against social media. And again, you are ignoring the fact that he hid the evidence of his crime. That suggests that he knew what he did was wrong. And also, isn't it true, Sidney Silvani, that he kicked the little brother out of the room and locked the door, right? So that indicates he knew he was about to do something horrible. He didn't want the little stepbrother to know what was happening.
Right. And the little brother heard fighting, heard screaming, heard furniture being overturned in the room that night. So we know that whatever happened, it was very violent.
Sidney Silvani, explain to me, do I have this right? That the parents, and that would be Anna Kepner's biological father and her stepmother, were right across the hall from her when all of this was happening, and they did not see her from the time she left dinner on the cruise ship with them around 7 p.m. the night before. Now, all the way around 7 a.m., that's 12 hours, 8, 9, 10, 11. All that time, they didn't check on her. And they're on a cruise ship full of thousands of people, including adults with open bars. They didn't check on her?
That's exactly correct. Anna goes home, goes back to her cabin early from dinner, and nobody starts questioning where she is until breakfast the next morning. And she is finally located by a housekeeper at 11 a.m. the next day.
Another thing I don't understand with that timeline, Sidney Silvani, is that they all had breakfast at the big buffet, and the little brother had to be there. Did he not mention this?
Anna's brother heard a heated argument between them in their cabin the night before Anna was found dead. He heard the stepbrother yelling at Anna, the sounds of furniture overturning, and screams from inside their room.
You heard him yelling at her, like, in a harmful way, of, like, shut the hell up and stuff like that. Like, something was, like, banging around and stuff, and, like, the chairs were getting thrown around in the room.
That's Anna Kepner's little boyfriend speaking to our friends at Inside Edition. So, Greg Morse, let me understand, while Anna's little brother is describing hearing a heated argument with furniture being thrown around and the teen stepbrother screaming, "Shut the hell up," you're telling me it's because of social media? And he didn't know what he was doing when he locked the little brother out of the room and started throwing furniture and screaming and cursing at Anna?
Well, what strikes me as even odder is, why wasn't that told to anybody right away? Why didn't the parents go in there? But at the end of the day, you're talking about a case that is serious, has a lot of violence. There seems to be a lot of organic evidence that may be in the room, whether it be DNA, and a defense for a young person potentially is, young people break from reality. Young people are more prone to having issues and acting in a way that's, they believe it's right, they believe it's real, and it's not. They're insane. So that's what I would look at here right now, from what I know. What else are you going to look at?
Okay, Greg Morse, I've just got to say, that I respect you deeply, because I throw the law at you. I throw facts at you. And you're kind of like Superman, it just bounces off and you just keep flying, It's like you can't hear what I'm saying. But you know what? You win a lot of cases. Now I see why. Joining us, two additional incredible guests. Number one, Spencer Ehrenfield is joining us, the cruise ship lawyer, and Dr. Cheryl Arrett. Dr. Cheryl, clinical forensic psychologist, specializing in trauma cases, and you can find her at askdrcheryl.com. Dr. Cheryl, I need you to hear this. Speaking of, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Listen to this. You heard Greg Moore saying, why wasn't this told to the parents, to the bio dad and the stepmom? I mean, they all had breakfast together, minus Anna. Nobody said, where's Anna? If I were on a cruise ship and my daughter didn't show up, HELLNO, nobody's having pancakes. Nobody's having the fruit. Forget it. We're finding Lucy then. That said, listen to this.
She just didn't feel safe around him. She's scared to tell anybody because she was scared that he would do something to her.
Joshua, too, says Anna's close relationship with her stepbrother was one-sided. The 16-year-old is obsessed with Anna and made her uncomfortable with romantic advances. He once even caught him trying to climb into Anna's bed while the two were on FaceTime, Anna already asleep.
American homeowners, the FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft. Your equity, the target. With just a forged signature, your ownership can be transferred out of your name. And without protection in place, you're left with an emotional and financial nightmare. That is why we partner with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code Nancy at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report. Free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you are a victim of fraud, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Please don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. You've been working your whole life and putting money into your home. Don't lose the equity. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Nancy, or just use the link below, and good luck.
He says, Dad, I tried to tell the parents that this was happening, and they didn't want to believe me. He's like infatuated, attracted to her like crazy. He's always wanted to date her.
Chris doesn't realize it's his fault. This whole thing is his fault. If he would have taken the warnings that Anna's ex-boyfriend gave him, then she would still be here. So keep that in mind, Christopher. I blame you.
That from our friends at Inside Edition and Just Mom 1984 on TikTok. Dr. Cheryl, I mean, I'm so mad I could shoot a nail in half right now. According to the little boyfriend and his father, they warned Anna's family that this stepbrother had tried to Anna at least once before. And you and I know all the stats. A sex offender will not stop. There's no rehab for a sex offender. So how many times did he or try to Anna? And she was afraid, and now she's dead. And so many people are worried about, why are you showing his face? He's a juvenile. She is stiff like cement, dead in a coffin. And they were warned, but yet she was put in a room with the stepbrother. Help me.
This is the tragedy here. And this is the thing. Sibling abuse is incredibly common. But families very often minimize and deny and don't hear it. Just like you're saying, see no evil, hear no evil. This was wishful thinking I'm imagining, on the part of this family, that they could all have this lovely cruise. But this was a creepy, predatory step sibling. And actually, the risk of abuse and violence and even killing does go up when siblings are not blood related to each other and when there is minimization of the abuse. She did not feel safe with him, and they put her in the same cabin, in the same room, and made her stay there with him. She was completely unprotected. And as you know, we've talked about how strangulation is one of the biggest, most violent power and control moves that is highly lethal and highly predictive of repeat offending. And while, yes, this is a 16-year-old whose brain isn't fully formed, he is a tremendous danger. And where were these parents protecting the daughter from her step siblings?
You know what you just did, Dr. Cheryl? You just threw Greg Morse some chum when you said brain not formed. Now he's going to go off that this defendant's brain wasn't formed. That said,
You're welcome.
I think it's... Dr. Cheryl, I don't know if I'm capsulizing this correctly, but families want that Hallmark picture. They don't want problems. They don't want people to know they have problems. They certainly don't want anyone to know that their big hulking stepson is trying to Anna Kepner, their daughter. They just like, no, that's not happening. That can't happen. We'll talk to him. Well, obviously that didn't work. Hold on, guys. I'm hearing in my ear. I'll circle back to Greg Moore so he can go off on brain not formed. Spencer Ehrenfeld is joining us, veteran trial lawyer, founder of Ehrenfeld Trial Lawyers. He's author of an illustrated book, Sarah Rose, Kid Lawyer in all of his spare time. But for my purposes, he's known as the Cruise Line Lawyer. Okay, Spencer, I'm sure somewhere along the way, somebody's going to try to sue Carnival Cruise Line. That's your specialty. You go after the cruise ships.
The cruise line may never have known the intricacies of that relationship, but cruise lines like Carnival have an absolute duty to provide reasonable security and safety for their passengers. So if there was any indication in the public spaces that there was something inappropriate happening between these two, or that either one of them had consumed alcohol or an excessive amount of alcohol, or if there were loud noises coming from that cabin, a fight, things being thrown around that would have and should have triggered Carnival security, that something inappropriate is going down in that cabin, then Carnival would have civil exposure in this case for failing to provide reasonable security to poor Anna. So they don't need to know the intricacies of the incestuous relationship or what the parents know. It's more important, what did Carnival know, or what should they have known given what was happening outside of that cabin?
Spencer, it's very critical. It would be, if I were prosecuting this case, that all of the video surveillance and all of the, a lot of times when we would go on Disney cruises, we'd all have a wristband, and not just one of the rubber ones, but it was more like a watch, and you'd just tap in before you would have dinner or before you would go to an event or whatever you were doing. Those are really full of information about who was where and when. You're saying, did they drink? I don't know if they drank. There are allegations that the teens were served alcohol. We'll find out. But before you can get food or alcohol or a snow cone, you tap your watch. So long story short, we're going to find that out. But do they keep all that information? Do they keep all the video? And if so, for how long? Or is it reused and recycled where we'll never see who went in that room and who came out? Because Anna Kepner went in and didn't walk out.
I just got a verdict on Friday night in federal court in Miami against Carnival, and one of the main features of that case was missing surveillance video. Carnival has an obligation under the law to preserve surveillance video whenever there's a suggestion that a crime may have taken place. Under the Cruise Vessel Safety and Security Act, they must keep the video. In the case that I just won, a $300,000 verdict, they did not keep the video. What happens is, if they don't save it, Carnival knows it gets written over and deleted permanently. So they have 30 days from the date of this incident to preserve it. And if they didn't, for whatever reason, it wouldn't surprise me, by the way, Nancy, having sued Carnival dozens of times over the last 35 years, that they didn't. But I sure hope, for the sake of this family, that Carnival did the right thing and the legal requirement of preserving all the surveillance video from the moment Anna got on that ship until her poor body was taken off that ship in Miami. They should have it. They should have given it to the U.S. Attorney's Office, to the FBI, to the Coast Guard. And if they didn't, they're going to have a lot of explaining to do.
If you have been leaning on credit cards lately just to cover living basics like groceries, gasoline, utility bills, you're essentially paying a survival tax of 20% interest or more. American Financing is helping homeowners tap into their equity to pay off high interest debt with mortgage rates currently in the fives. On average, American Financing is saving their customers $800 a month. Not just $800, but $800 a month. There are no upfront fees to talk to a salary-based mortgage consultant. Why do I care about that? Because they don't get a percentage of sales. They're salary-based. Start today. You could even delay 2 mortgage payments. American Financing, America's home for home loans. 866-888-0344. That's 866-888-0344. Or simply go to americanfinancing.net/Nancy, and good luck. What happened that night in that room? A federal indictment has just been handed down straight out to Sydney Silvani, Crime Stories investigative reporter. He is being treated as an adult. He will not be prosecuted in juvenile court. Explain to me, what is in the indictment?
There are 2 charges in this indictment: aggravated sexual assault and first-degree murder. Those are the charges this teenager will be tried as an adult for. And I want to point out, Nancy, this monster is still walking free. He is not in federal lockup. He is not in detention. He is still staying with an uncle with ankle monitoring.
I don't understand what you just said. Joe Scott Morgan, he's walking free. He's not in custody. He's in a private residence. Could you refresh our recollection regarding the injuries to Anna Kepner?
I would welcome that opportunity. And let me tell you what this child went through. She is going to have a pretty serious injury to her neck that would have prevented her from breathing. Okay. It appears that also, and this is in the superseding indictment, mentioned at least from the feds, Nancy, they're using the term penetrative. Okay. They're talking about a penetrative sexual act, which means that this perpetrator, this alleged perpetrator, had violated her in her area or in her area. So when we think about this, we have to begin to think that the injuries that they saw at autopsy apparently state that these events occurred prior to her death. So that means in the midst of this assault or aggravated assault, that they probably found hemorrhage in that area. And I'm talking about contusions, abrasions, and Nancy, tears, more than likely. And that's going to paint a pretty grim picture, in addition to the trauma that she sustained to her neck. And one more spot that they probably would have swabbed relative to her case is, Nancy, right here on the anterior neck. They're talking about him using an arm bar. That means you've got a point of contact that would go over her neck, We can swab this area right here, search for DNA there as well, in addition to the kit that would have been done. And one more, and I'll shut my mouth. She obviously has gone out and had like her nails done. This is a celebratory cruise, right? Guess what? They're going to have her fingernails. They will have done nail scrapings. They would have done nail clippings. And if there is anything there, the scientist at the forensics lab will find that. That's a very intimate contact that you're talking about. Very, very difficult to explain away, Nancy.
The stark reality, Joe Scott, and I've seen so many murder scenes and processed so many murder scenes, but I remember when my dad was buried, I hugged him goodbye, and his body was like cement. I almost wish I hadn't done it, and I'll never shake that. So while we're all worried about, oh no, you showed his face, oh no, he's charged as an adult, she is like cement, buried. Now, the big concern from the family, who is not charged with anything, they're not a person of interest, they're not a suspect, their big concern, seemingly up to now, has been to protect the stepson.
He was a good student.
Played soccer.
He played soccer, very quiet young man. He had demons, I think, in his past, and he was trying to deal with those.
Barbara and Jeffrey Kepner are shocked Anna's 16-year-old stepbrother is being eyed as the suspect in her murder, describing them as two peas in a pod and very close. She says the teen was distraught when he learned Anna's body was found and couldn't speak during an initial interview with FBI agents. Barbara says the teen claims he can't remember what happened and was hospitalized for psychiatric observation when they arrived back in Miami.
He was an emotional mess. He couldn't even speak. He couldn't believe what had happened.
From our friends at ABC, help me, help me. A great soccer player, a good student. He was fine at the breakfast buffet until the body is found. That's when he clams up. He couldn't or he wouldn't speak to authorities. I don't understand, Dr. Cheryl Eric, why am I hearing about what a great guy the stepbrother is? And another thing, we've got the little boyfriend stating, I warned the parents. We've got the boyfriend's father stating, we warned the parents he was or trying to her. She was afraid of him. They put her in a room with him unsupervised. Then that morning, he comes to breakfast and acts like nothing is wrong until the body's found, and suddenly he goes catatonic. BS.
Right. This is getting spun as if he were this distraught that she was missing or that she was dead. But as you're pointing out with the timeline, he got really distraught when the body was found, and it looked like he was in really big trouble, potentially. And I think what you're seeing with the parents sure looks like that minimization and that, the focus on protecting the boy. And, everybody was warning about this. And I have an issue with anyone referring to this as an relationship that they were having. That would make something mutual.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox 1. When breaking crime news develops, we investigate it and bring it to you. Bombshell updates, answers to unanswered questions from cases making the headlines and cases you may never have heard of until Crime Stories. We go inside investigations with exclusive interviews, crime victims, families seeking justice, investigators, experts, and sources from within the case itself. Stay on top of the nation's biggest trials with us, including gavel-to-gavel coverage with real-time analysis. Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. Stream it first on Fox 1. I hope to see you there, and thank you, friend.
Greg Morris, why is he out walking free? Why is he living in a private residence when he's got a murder one charge against him?
Oh, that's one of the factors. He's a juvenile, so that's going to weigh heavily on releasing him. The court obviously found that any risk of flight is minimal. They put the monitor on him, and with that, they found he wasn't a danger to the community, and most likely it's because of his age. I have plenty of clients in federal court. They would not be released pre-trial on charges like this, even though obviously everyone's presumed innocent. But again, just like I talked about with insanity or competence, age is a big factor here. Yes, it's a tragic outcome of conduct, but again, he's a minor. They felt secure with the family he was living with to not keep him in custody.
Greg Morse and I could argue all day long. It's his profession as it is mine, but let me remind everyone that this stepbrother is innocent under the law. He's presumed innocent. Now, the rest of that sentence is unless and until the state pierces the presumption of innocence with facts and evidence that prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, the family, the parents, the step-parents, are not charged with anything. We may disapprove of the way they parent, but no one has charged them with neglect or abuse. That's the law as it stands tonight. If you know or think you know anything about this case, even if you consider it insignificant, please dial 754-703-2000, 754-703-2000. Tonight we remember an American hero, Agent Eddie Santiago Renta, Puerto Rico PD, shot in the line of duty. Tonight he leaves behind a wife turned widow and 4 children. American hero, Agent Eddie Santiago Renta. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us tonight and keeping the investigation into Anna Kepner's death alive. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight, but I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, good night, friend. Hi, guys. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. And if you're on the go, please join us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all our content, where we, in our way, seek justice.